All right.
Okay.
So I can't see the chat, but that's fine. Hello, everyone.
Hold on,
I'm
hold
your
on.
leader. It's Randall. How are you? It's Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. We're opening up with some discussion about particular topics. We think we can help people more in that way, a structured approach. And my friend Kevin is going to jump in and be my wingman here, fielding some questions, also offering input. He's been down the same road as us, very plugged in person, a personal trainer and coach himself, and I'm really happy to team up with him. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Randall. Like Randall mentioned, I've been through similar things as him and through most of you as well. Me and Randall have spoken a few times now, and we both feel that I have some stuff to share that can help people out as well. Some of the stuff will be similar to what Randall has mentioned in the past. Some of it will be different, which is a good thing because that just shows there's more than one way to kind of get through this. Randall mentioned in a previous video to come into this really being aware of what stage you're at through the process. So I kind of see there being three stages. The first stage is kind of the eye of the storm, as he's put it before, which is typically the first few days, first few weeks of the process. Then there's the kind of, let's say, middle ground where you're kind of, you're kind of a little bit recovered, you feel, but you're still really hurting inside and you're still struggling with what to do. And then the third stage is the whole kind of, I'm ready to move on now. You still have your moments here and there, but you're still really, you're kind of on the right track. You're almost there. Just because I kind of say that, just because I say stage, the first few weeks, that doesn't mean that's necessarily the case. You could have started the divorce process years ago. It will be in stage one. And I think that's okay for the purpose of this right now, just as long as you're actually acknowledging the truth of where you are.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And forgive us for the audio issues. We'll try to balance it out. But the reason I created this was to reach the people who are in the storm and just offer them some kind of direction, some kind of guide, some kind of knowledge. Other people are out there that understand where they're coming from. And I think we want to be curious, not judgmental. So when I say this, I come out of that, curious, not judgmental. If you're watching right now, what do you want to get out of this? Take a breath, acknowledge where you are. We talked about the stages. Kevin mentioned that. If you just want to know other people have gone through what you've gone through and you need a tribe and that kind of support, that's cool. But be truthful with yourself. We're about truth here because sometimes we come in and we make promises and everything that we don't keep. And to me, that sets us back. If we talk about getting, not eating crap, junk food and doing some exercise and you're not there, that's cool. Be straight up, bro. Be straight up with this and we'll step by step help each other out. We'll guide each other. So Kevin, let's talk about our specific topic tonight, topics, and put a little structure to this. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good. Now, I also want to make sure the chat thing is working. So sorry, guys, again, technical difficulties. This is the first time we've done this together. So I don't have a chat screen on my side. It just says hi chat. Randall, do you have any idea on that?
I don't see anything. But why don't you intermittently just work on that? If we have to, we'll chat together and we'll give an email out. If you want to give an email out, what are your thoughts on that? We could field questions that way.
I can do that. Yeah, I can sign into my email address. So let's, my email address that you guys can contact with questions. What's the easiest way here? Is reachyourpotential10@yahoo.com. Okay, so that's reachyourpotential@yahoo.com.
Why don't you write that out and hold it up maybe to the camera? It's kind of long. Sure. While you're doing that, guys, while Kevin's doing that, let's just take a couple breaths as he's writing that out. He'll take time to do that. So We're just going to breathe in, do a little box breathing, set our intention here, whatever it is. Let's get in touch with our gut here and not just with the head. Okay? Because that's where all the good stuff is. The head guides, the gut is the real foundation of everything. So let's take some deep breaths. Hold. Release. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Release. Hold. And just take a nice breath in and breathe out. Let's set our intention. All right, slowly come out. That's not a bad way to go with yourself, particularly when interacting with your ex. All right, there, write that down as I'm talking. We're making the most of our time here. So
it's
reach your
REA.
potential. Yep, they can see it. It's cool.
Yeah, so reach your potential 10@yahoo.com, and I'll be checking that regularly.
Yeah, set that in. We'll fix this down the road. So that breath, whatever sense you get, that's where we want to come from when we're listening. And let's say we're going to talk about anger tonight. Kevin will delve into that a little more, but that's probably a good place to start with this whole conversation. When you get a shell fired at you, or you interpret that from the other person, to go through that breathing, then respond, because you know there's no good stuff if you just fire off, right? And it doesn't help anybody. So Kev, let's jump into that. What's our topic tonight?
Yeah, so we're going to talk mainly about letting go of anger and also some mind framing. So Randy, you want us to start with letting go of anger?
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that. So go for it.
So I think, I mean, letting go of anger is probably the toughest thing that I found that I had to try and do. And I think it's probably one of the hardest things that most people going through this try to do, certainly from the communications that I've received from a couple of guys by email. And Randall, I know you've kind of experienced similar. And I'll share something that someone shared with me, even I think only like a month or two ago, in that letting go of anger isn't the same as forgiveness. So when people kind of say, hey, you have to let go of that anger, I think a lot of people kind of hear in their heads, I can't forgive that person. I can't forget what they did. And if you can get to that point, if you can get to the point where you're actually forgiving the person, that's like on a whole new level. That's great. But the good news is that you don't have to, you don't have to forgive. You don't have to contact them and say, I forgive you. You don't have to forget what they've done. Think of it as forgiveness is something for them which you don't want to give them. It's okay. But letting go of anger is for you. And there's, loads of strategies, like Randall said, breathing is a great one, because breathing is the only thing they actually have that's in the present. Something else, gratitude is huge. And we're going to talk about mindset later on as well. And gratitude kind of falls into the mindset section, but gratitude also comes into letting go of anger, because it makes you realize what you actually do have, even though you've lost a lot. But the whole gratitude thing, people say, okay, well, how do I get gratitude? And like you said, Rand, it's really helpful to write things down, not through the phone or through your laptop, but actually physically writing with a pen or pencil down on paper. But don't just write things like job, friends, because you can easily have a whole list of stuff like that, favorite TV shows you can go down to. But actually write down, okay, friends, what are your close friendships and how do they make you feel? That's what will actually make you feel gratitude, rather than just reading a list off.
So you're saying gratitude around your life, not just in the pinpoint of that, like in the sphere of the marriage, like maybe even forcing gratitude. This woman gave me the children, helped me with my career. You're not, that may be part of it, but I love how you're saying it's the broader atmosphere, if you will, of life. And that broaderness helps you focus in and let up on the anger on that individual pinpoint. Is that right?
I think so. I mean, I think from the people that I've spoken to and from my own experience, it's more kind of like focusing on what you have Because if you kind of like pinpoint, like you said, just of that person and what they gave you, but then if you're still in some communication with them, like if you have kids and stuff, and then they do something wrong to you again, you're not going to be feeling like gratitude to them, I don't think. But if you have like a whole bunch of things to be grateful for, like friends, like job, like travel and all those things, it reminds you that even if you do still have contact with them, but you're still clashing, it's okay because you have those other things. Just as long as you're actually writing down how it makes you feel and what benefits they give you, and what benefits they've given you in your life, and also what benefits that they can give you in the future as well.
I think it's really well said. And one of our big fans asked me to address anger and how it relates to children and not being able to see the children. And it feeds into everything else. I mean, the anger level is what it is. And it is such an incredible opportunity, I'll say, to train the soul and the spirit to take that energy. And there may be bad mouthing to the children, to the court, talking. This individual is saying that things are being said to the children. I don't want to go off on the kid tangent. That'll be another show. But it could be anything. Your coworkers, she's talking to your friends or your relatives or her, all this kind of stuff. And to rise above that is not easy. But this is what is called upon you in this situation, whether you like it or not. This has been thrust upon you. And to grow through it, not just go through it, we have to use those strategies as you're mentioning, the anger. And I think it's worth saying, again, going to the no BS thing. I'm not ready to give up on the anger there. I can tell Randall and Kevin or a therapist or whatever, okay, and kind of give it lip service. But you know what? I think it's more valuable to say, hey, I'm not there yet. And that leads to, I think, some authentic thinking. And then when you are ready, then you're ready, right?
Yeah, because the other thing is putting on an act, right? And I think I've heard this many times, but it kind of relates to this. When you're going to bed at night, it's just you sleeping on a pillow. And so even though you can tell lies and, put on a persona to everyone else in your life, when you're by yourself, that's when the truth hits home. That's when the truth is clear. And if you're really not in that kind of, like, going back to the stages, if you feel you're in stage 3, but you're actually in stage 1, it's a lot better to say it, because then at least people can support you in the right way, right? If you're kind of acting like, yeah, I'm in stage 3, I'm all good, I don't need anyone, well, why would people need to be there for you then, right? But if you're actually acknowledging, no, I'm in stage 1, I'm really struggling, even if it was years ago, then at least the good people that you have in your life can be there for you.
Absolutely. And there's things like, let's say this person texts you or calls you or emails you, whatever. There's nothing wrong with saying, look, I'm really angry about this. I've done this before. I'm going to take a breath and respond because I'm going to say something that I shouldn't say. It's not going to help things. So in that way, you're standing for yourself and the anger gets an outlet. I think sometimes there's situations where people feel like they're being bullied or less than, and all this self-esteem gets wrapped up with her. The bottom line, bro, is this woman, this person is just that, a person. She has control over you to the extent you give her control. Now you have to go zen when it involves kids and money and things. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's all about stepping up that level and healthy, because the other direction is not going to lead you anywhere. And the one thing I would say is, Kevin, there's a time you do kind of have to try it on to feel it. Like, you can dwell on that anger, and we say, if you're not ready for it, don't do it. But after a certain time, I think you have to experience forgiveness and things, and maybe working out, running, and getting that anger out in other ways.
Oh, I agree completely. Yeah, and there was another point that I was going to make in regards to what you were touching on there. One of the other points I wrote down was to be the bigger person and to be the better person, but not so much the better person, because when you say the bigger person, it's almost like you're still in competition with someone, right? Like if it's me and you, me and Randall just had an argument, I'm going to be the bigger person. I'm still competing against you. I'm still comparing myself to you. I'm still trying to prove myself to you. So instead of actually saying, okay, I'm going to be the bigger person, instead try to say, I'm just going to be the best version of myself, which is cliche, but sometimes those cliches, you kind of need to repeat those cliches to yourself each day.
Right. And you ask yourself, is what I'm about to do healthy for me? Okay, now look, I say that all the time to myself when I'm about to eat a box of cookies, and it doesn't work 9 out of 10 times, but it does take, and it begins to retrain the brain, okay, when we challenge ourselves in that way and we ask those questions, because it's all about the questions you're asking yourself and revealing what is really going on there. And look, anger is a big thing, but we want to dig into it. Under anger is sadness and that kind of thing. And if you can get to the point where you say to this person, look, I'm sorry it didn't work out. It would have been, we had some good times, and it's just something we have to move on beyond and do our best to. She may tell you to pound sand, but that's not what it's about. It's not about her reaction. It's about what you're putting out there, right?
Yeah, and also something kind of tied to that, especially at the start when you started talking there, is if it's possible to try to look at the situation from their perspective. Now that's not always going to work. Like if there's stuff like certain things that took place, you may not be able to do that. But if it's just like kind of like an argument, and you're kind of like, oh, they did this, they did that, kind of ask, well, did they do it for a reason? Like, did something push them to do that? Because if that's the case, then not so much, okay, you need to forgive them all of a sudden, but at least you can you see it from a different angle, which may be able to let go of some of the anger. And also, one of the things I also used to do was I would sit, because I have a couple of friends that have been through it as well, and I would kind of picture myself actually talking to these other friends, and actually hearing them kind of talk to me about their situation, and me trying to give them advice. Because sometimes they say it's hard to take your own advice, which is true. But if you can actually picture yourself giving someone else that advice, it may help. I think it helped me quite a bit.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really well said. And obviously you have it's a daily thing. It can come up, the anger. You want to be healthy, do your exercise, that kind of thing. But what about the people who just can't get beyond that anger? They're hot. I would say, and I'll throw this over to you, a couple things. I firmly believe that if you can't settle that anger, make peace with it, with yourself, I'm not saying you have to make peace with her, but if you can't take ownership and make some kind of peace with that anger, it will show up in your next relationship. It will pollute your world with friends or job or what have you. Take it on as a challenge. You don't have to believe me, but I think you'll find the experience of that. Like, I want a nice, beautiful relationship with a woman in my future to make that happen. And I'm convinced that won't happen if anger is held in this space. Now, some of you are in the first week or day of this, and I'm just saying, put that out there as something to aspire to. Okay. And the one thing I get nothing from this book, but I read a lot of this kind of stuff. I don't know if you can see that, but this book is freaking awesome. It's a workbook, very simple. Basically, we'll go into it down the road, but this talks about what you can control and what you can't in a very real world, solid way. Really suggested reading. Again, I don't even know these guys, but it's been a great book for me. And so, Kevin, for people who are there where they just can't let go of the anger, what are your thoughts beyond what I'm saying?
I'm just going to come in there, Randall. So this is obviously the first time I've done YouTube, so my nerves are a little bit all over the place. So the email address, it's reachyourpotential@yahoo.ca, not .com, .ca. So all you have to do, you don't have to type the whole email out again. Just go into your sent email, obviously, and just click forward on that email. It's exactly the same, reachyourpotential10@yahoo.ca.
.ca. All right, that's good. That's good.
And if we're selecting nominating books, one of the books I've read, and I've read quite a bit since the whole thing took place for me, it's Jay Shetty. It's called Think Like a Monk. It
Yeah,
may
I've heard of
sound it may sound boring, but it's not. It's one of those books that you can literally pick up, and it's not like, chapters like long pages. And each page is like 2 or 3 different segments that you can get some great advice on. It's sold a lot. I don't know if I get like any money for that. If people
We
buy
should
it.
do a book club now that
A
we're
book
thinking
club,
of it.
we should do that. That's a good book.
And there are 2 other points I want to make. The first is one of our visions, Kevin and I, for this, and we've done it together, is to have accountability partners. So as we build this community, in the comments, you guys feel free to connect with each other, but nothing's more powerful than WhatsApp or whatever you got on your phone there. Let's say Jay is a friend of yours you met in Toronto and you're in Kansas. Man, I'm really hot at her. This happened. And he talks to you. That is huge to have an accountability person. The second is, I don't think anybody on this channel is there, but you'll have situations where and I'll bring up dating just to use this as an example. She will talk about her ex, or you may, and the anger comes out. Bro, there's nothing more boring and destructive than meeting a new person, bringing this garbage to them. My line is, hey, she's a beautiful woman, great mom, great business person, and it just didn't work out. Not the greatest thing I ever achieved in my life, and I'm sorry for the kids, but this is how it is. I'm not going into, she did this, she believed that. If you're going there, take a breath, have compassion for yourself, and see a lot of opportunity for growth in yourself beyond that.
Yeah, and this also isn't like a man versus woman thing. Like I've had a couple of people ask me when I told them that I'm doing this, they kind of say, "Oh, so it's divorce support for men." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." But Randall's mentioning he's had some women contact him about this thing as well. And I think there's only a few watchers right now, but they may be women. So it's not so much about like, bitching about the women and stuff like this. Just to kind of like
That's right.
side note.
So anybody have any questions? At 7:20, we can maybe shift to any questions there and then fold in the mind framing we're talking about.
So just so I don't have any questions that have come up on my side. I don't know if you want to take a short moment and see on YouTube if there's anything for you.
Oh.
But otherwise, another option for the guys is if people watch this about letting go of anger and mind framing, if they kind of watch it after and they have some questions, they can maybe even just email us some questions, and me and Randall can maybe do like another half-hour thing later on where we actually address those specific questions. That's another option. But I don't know if anyone's emailed you some questions.
Let me just see here. Let me see here. All right, so I don't see anything here, but that's all right. We got a lot of people watching. All message. Nobody's saying anything yet. Okay, so you can hear me, right? So
yeah.
All right, we talk about mind framing, which really folds into what we were discussing before about letting go of anger. It's about changing your perspective on things, to look at the facts and really ask yourself, what's my healthiest opportunity here? How can I react in the healthiest way? And I suggest that deep breath just to set the tone on that. And, sometimes, particularly when you're in the beginning of all this, just asking the question is enough, right? Setting your intention, let it breathe. If you just breathe and ask that question to yourself, what's my healthy move here, my healthy reaction? That's pretty powerful, and that'll come into play for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, for me, mind framing it's kind of hard to know where to start, because mind framing, mindset, whatever, can kind of cover everything, right? It covers all the stages, it covers whether it's divorce, separation, dating again, it really covers everything. So what I'll do is I'll kind of mention to the viewers how this conversation topic got brought up between Randall and I at first. So it was me kind of just sitting here in my accommodation, and I'm looking around and seeing what I have. And I was like, there's been many times in the past where I've looked around and I said, wow, I used to have all of this. Like I was kind of set. And now I've got all these, just a few things here and there. And that's like a negative frame of mind, right? It's a negative frame of mind of reality. but it's still true. So what I had to do instead, because otherwise if you stay in that negative mindset, it's a deep rabbit hole there. So what I did instead is I started to look at things in a different way. I was looking at the same things, but just differently, from a different frame. I'm looking at the same things thinking, okay, I've been through so much, but I didn't go into drink, drugs or fighting or crime, whatever all that negative stuff is. I'm looking around thinking, well, I've actually got a few things here that are positive, that are mine, that I built for myself. Even the small things, like, I got a new vacuum. I'm a big fan of this vacuum. It has lights and all kinds of stuff on it. That's a big thing. You're taking the small things, but you're making them into big things. How? Because you're looking at it things from a positive frame. Randall mentioned in a few videos that you have to focus on the things you can control, like that book you just showed us. Well, mind framing is definitely that. If you don't control it, or if you don't choose to have control over it, you're just going to go into that negative frame. And, some of the people that I've been in contact with on email, they're in that negative frame of mind, but if they just switch it consciously, they still have the same stuff, but they're going to view it differently in a positive mind.
Do you think it's fair to say what happened in this marriage, the good, the bad, the ugly, is a separate entity in your life, or it's a microcosm of perhaps other things, how you do things in other life? If you show up with aggressiveness in the marriage or low self-esteem or other behaviors that negatively, has led to this impact, do you think it's a broader thing in life?
I heard a saying that how you show up in one aspect of your life is how you show up in all aspects of your life. Now, that's obviously a little bit different because in the marriage, there's two people. It's not just one. So it's a little bit different there. But I think for me, the answer would be yes, whether it's kind of communication or self-worth, which is hugely important. I think it's, I think that's the case. I think when you're kind of looking at yourself, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but the answer is yes from me. I think it's definitely kind of, if you're kind of having a negative mind frame in the marriage or in other aspects of life, whether it's work, friendship, whatever, then that's going to kind of stay with you. And you kind of have to switch to a positive mind frame for one thing, and that will at least assist you in having a positive mind frame for other aspects in your life. That's why I see it.
I like that. Absolutely. I'm sure there are people out there like, you don't know my ex. And I'm sure that comes into play because, as you say, it takes two to tango. And if they're gone, women usually are 1.5 to 2 years ahead of us, right? By the time we figure it out, it's dead DOA. So that can happen, or the person can really be a wall of stone and you can't reach that. But in life, things like that will happen with either a new boss or a disease or something else, or also joyful things as well. But the point is, it's really mute because you want to live on. I assume you're watching this, you want to move beyond this. So use this as a challenge and a way to grow as a person. And as we always focus on in this channel, it's actionable stuff. We can talk conceptually, but every day we want to take action towards this, whether it's basic exercise, getting the blood flowing, or some meditation, or whatever it is you enjoy. So if you're like meditation, okay, that sounds great and I'm going to own that and do that in the morning. It lasts like one day. I get it. It's fine. Do your best to focus on that. If playing guitar is your meditation, or poetry, or working, okay, treat these as meditative processes. It doesn't have to be seated. You could be a mountain biker. That's fine. Bring meditation into that. That's the point. Move beyond. Start investing in yourself.
And Randy, you mentioned focus there. So another thing I was going to bring up is what you focus on, you get more of, right? And that's just, it's just like a little quick line. But for those people that are still kind of in contact with the ex, I think when you try to you're trying to prove yourself, right? So let's say if Steve is still friends with his ex, or still kind of in connection with his ex, he still has contact with her, he's going to try and, I'm going to get a great job. or I'm going to learn how to, cook a lot, or I'm going to become this star athlete that she always wanted me to. And it's almost like you're kind of trying to prove something to the ex.
Right.
You're not really growing because you're so focused on just impressing, because that's what you're doing, right? You're trying to impress the other person, but that just shows that you haven't moved on at all, right? You got to kind of focus on things for you, grow for you.
Right. What a great comment. Right. So framing can be motivated by that. I'm going to show her, or and up here what's empty. Recently, what I've been really working on, speaking of framing, is, I don't want to get too woo-woo here, but I really think there are 3 different thought processes: the rational, up here, the brain working, the heart, and the gut. And I'd love to have people work and share their ideas of how to get in touch with each. And if somebody says, I want to do this business deal with you, or do this or that, the gut does tell you things. And I think the gut is a BS check. And that all feeds into this framing. How are you going to frame this? And to state that in the beginning, how can I frame this the healthiest way? What I've done before, and it's really powerful, is when I go out today, maybe to this party or see this person or work today, something incredibly cool is going to happen that's going to help me move me towards my fitness goal or my business goal or my personal goal. Start playing with that and see where that framing goes, because I think Kevin's point that and I'm really glad he brought it up, because it's opened my eyes up about this whole thing I'm doing on the channel. We're talking about your whole world, and this being a focus of it. And that doesn't even count the children. The children are spectators who will learn from you. And even your friends and family will be affected by how you are. So I'm asking you to set an intention that stretches you, and that your frame of mind will need to stretch, even if you don't feel you're there yet. Does that make sense? Kevin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's great. And also kind of touching on what you mentioned at the start of kind of going into the day, thinking, okay, this is going to be a great day, etc. Taking a line from the book I mentioned, what he suggests doing is, as soon as your bare feet touch the ground in the morning, actually repeat to yourself, this is going to be a great day. This is going to be a happy day. And there's some other lines in there, which is much better than what I just said. But it's kind of like setting your intentions in the morning. And the other thing that also in regards to the morning, if it's possible, I think this is the David Goggins world. And I know you've mentioned David Goggins a couple of times. I know he's got a few YouTube videos, and one of his lines is, "Don't look at the phone in the morning," because if you're looking to get that positive mindset, you look at the phone, there's something, bad news on there, or Instagram, or all that nonsense, that can kind of set your mind right back. So you're starting in a bad place. Whereas if you get up and you kind of do stuff first, whether it's making your bed, having a shower, doing a little bit of work, or doing a workout, at least you're kind of setting yourself up. That bad news, it's still going to be there if it's there, but at least you've woken up in the morning and you focused on yourself, as opposed to reading stuff that you don't want to read just yet.
Absolutely. And I see there's an even number of people watching. Those folks could pair up as, accountability friends. That's a hugely powerful thing that people can do, and off of this. So I have an email question here.
Great. Finally. Thank you.
About having these things and following through with them, but then falling off the horse. And how do you get back on? It's so hard to dig back out, even after you get a little positive energy on.
You know what? Okay, so as soon as you started talking there, my mind went, and again, I may spiral up here. We were talking about your tips and your videos, the box breathing, the cold showers, the journaling, the working out, the waking up at 5 a.m., all that stuff. And I said to you, and I was going to go back and find out from these people, how many people actually do that? And I think a lot of people do, but I don't know if they're actually doing it for the right reasons. Okay, I think some people may be doing it because someone they look up to, quite rightly, says they should do these things. but they're not actually feeling any benefits themselves. So I think people, when they kind of do these things and they fall off, I think they're falling off and they're having a hard time getting back because they don't actually feel the benefits of the things they're doing. So for me, like I haven't worked out in a while, but if I'm hearing someone tell me to work out, I'll work out. That's great. But if I'm not feeling it as a benefit for me, then it's not going to happen. And I've heard you say that it's like a jacket. You've never been telling people do this, do that. You've said, try it on. If it doesn't work for you, do something else. And I think maybe these people are, falling off the cart or whatever and finding it hard to get back on because they don't actually like the methods that they've been doing.
Right.
Or even if it is working out, you've mentioned the burpees, maybe they don't like doing burpees. Maybe they would be better with like some squats or something, whatever. So maybe that could be, and obviously we don't know the details and stuff, but that would be one thing I would say. Maybe people fall off I don't want to say fall off the wagon. It kind of means something else, but maybe they fall off the cart or they fall off track and they find it hard to get back because they're not actually enjoying what they're doing. But if they try doing something else, they may prefer it.
So it's owning your space in the world and your attitude and everything. And to own your space, this is really interesting. To own your space, you have to know what that is. Like to own what motivates you. Think back to, I think a common theme probably is, what did I give up once I was in the marriage that I miss? Now that could be if you were in a rock band or something, or enjoyed studying the Civil War. That takes a lot of time. You have kids, you're busy. I get all that. But sometimes we surrender things because we don't know if the support's coming from the other side, and we give into that and the self-esteem thing. But it really doesn't matter what. Get back in touch with your passions. And I was reading something today where it's actually about float tanks. I did a float tank the other day.
Oh, yeah, you
I
told me,
highly
yeah.
recommend it. That's a whole nother thing. But this person talks about relaxation and breathing and getting back in touch with yourself is poo-pooed because you're relaxing, you're late, you should be working, you should be 9 to 5. There's definitely a time if you have a big project due or something going on, you don't go off for 3 hours, but you want to make your mental health a priority and to take a break and to breathe and those kind of things and to make yourself rise that other level motivated by your instinct and what connects to you as well, because that's going to fuel you as you go through the rough times, right?
Yeah, I think it's like a blend. Like it's doing stuff like working out, exercise, all that stuff, and also then finding stuff that you can do that you can just kind of sit and kind of just do, right? So I mentioned to you, I think the first time I spoke to you, I got back into Lego after like 30 years. And it's great because you can actually, with Lego, you're just kind of doing it. You're not doing anything else. You kind of like actually, you're picking up a piece. Okay, is this the piece I need? You're counting the pieces on there. And you're actually staying present just with that. As long as you have all your phone and your iPad and all that stuff away from you, right? Or like reading. A little bit hard to read outside now because of the cold, but I would really enjoy it in the summertime, just like sitting outside with a beer and a snack and my book. Now, none of that's like active work. None of that's like making me grow in the maybe generic sense, but you are still growing because you're still learning, right? You're learning from reading a good book, or you're learning from just how, if it's even just something simple like Lego, you're still learning because you're learning how to stay present a little bit, try to stay calm. Again, not for everyone, but it's nice to have a blend of kind of the active stuff and let's call it the active recovery, where you're kind of like you're still working, but it's more kind of calm.
So I have another question here. Great question. It's a bit of a repeat, but I think it's worth drilling in. It's when you are just triggered by this other person, whether email or text, in the moment, what are some strategies to deal with that? I think it's a great question from Roger. And I think what we're talking about is two layers, if you will. The broader everyday layer where you're having your beer, you're with friends, or you're doing your Lego, and then the in the moment, the breathing, maybe the push-ups, maybe whatever, in the moment before you respond to that text, as we say. And I would add on to that, what if we drill into anger? Anger is hurt, feeling taken advantage of, not valued, bullied, and maybe it's tied up in, fight or flight anger or self-esteem. But as we talk about these layers of the onion, the broader one of getting in touch with yourself on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month, year-to-year, the in the moment, take a breath, do a push-up, whatever. I think the anger is about taking a stand for yourself and not selling yourself out. And there is a way to do that without lighting her up or ripping her, throwing the cat through the window or something. Well, let's talk about that balance there.
Yeah, that's a
I like cats. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, don't throw the cat out the window. But I think that's a tough one. Like you get something messaged to you. I mean, that can kind of be anything. Like, you could have like a personal problem, a family issue, and someone in your family or something messages you, and you're angry about it, so you respond straight away. But then you either regret it, how you've written it, or like you said, just kind of it's read the wrong way, because that's what happens with text messages and emails. They're read the wrong way, right? So the only advice I have on that, and maybe you'd have more advice because you kind of had more contact, is that if you're going to write something down in the heat of the moment, because sometimes if you get a message, you can't just put it down and walk away peacefully. You kind of have to write away. So you write it down, but then ideally, if you can, kind of like put it there, go away for like 5-10 minutes, whether you're doing breathing or just going for a walk or whatever, then come back and read it again. And you normally end up changing a couple of things. The other part you can do just came into my head and I forgot it. The other part you can do is maybe even look into the future. Like write the text message out or the email or whatever, but then actually read it back and say, okay, if I send this, what's going to be the comeback? Like, what are they going to come back with? Like, you see yourself in the future having this massive argument, all because of the way you wrote an email, when you could have just kind of written the email out calmer. And then another thing which we actually touched on before is try to see from their perspective, I guess. Like, okay, they wrote this email to you, but was it meant to be snappy? I mean, I have arguments with my sibling all the time on WhatsApp because they're writing something down in a certain way. But are they writing it down in a certain way, or am I reading it in a certain way because of my mood? So that's what I would say on that personally.
And it's a serious character builder, because I've fallen off the horse where I'll rip her or have whatever, but then I'll say, you know what, I was out of line. That didn't come out right. I'm sorry. Now, the response a lot of times is it's not, we both were angry. It's understandable. We'd probably still be married if that was the case, but it's not about how they respond to you. It's about you growing. And when we talk about this stuff, you're thinking, how will she respond? What's the healthy thing to do there? I get you don't care how she responds. You don't really care what the healthy response is, because you're not in that mindset a lot of times, especially you guys who are in the heat right now. But just start asking those questions for me. Let them filter out there. You don't necessarily have to live through it and follow through with it. Just plant the seeds. I went to CVS this morning to get some stuff, and across the street is a hotel where I stayed at for several weeks when all this blew up. $48 a night. It smelled like terrible, and it was a horrible experience. But I do remember being in that hotel, looking in the mirror and saying, this was right after I'm like a nomad living all over the place. I'll spare you the drama, but looking in the mirror and saying, I'm in a world of hurt here, but I'm going to get out of this. I don't know how, I don't know when. And it took a while, but I put that out there. And I think that does become a guiding light for you. So if there's one takeaway from tonight with the frame and the anger, we're talking about things to aspire to. put your intention out there. You don't have to do this now or tomorrow or next week, but I think intention is power if you can keep presencing yourself to that.
Yeah, and thank you to the two people that sent the questions. Randy,
Yes.
you mentioned to keep it 9 at a time, so we've been going 50 minutes. Doesn't feel like it.
Wow,
It's been 50 minutes.
Okay, we got a nice comment. Great stuff. So should we keep open for another 5, or what do you think we
Yeah.
should do?
I think we can go for 5, and maybe we can maybe just, and this is more something for the people watching, or for the people that regularly watch your videos but on here, but just in regards to how we speak to them in regards to other topics that can be discussed going forward.
Somebody's asking what the Zoom code is. Does that matter, or can't they just ask a question in the box?
Is this in regards to asking a question?
I guess. I'll just tell them, just type here, right? Just type.
Yeah, because for the Zoom code, I think that would bring them into the Zoom meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ask question through text. Oh, he's asking, how do we join the community? Why don't we talk a little about that? I'm going to tell them we are building it now. So why don't we talk about our plans for this? It seems like people want to know that.
Okay. You want to start off and then I can come in?
Well, the concept is to build a community, because when you have other people going through this or have gone through it, it's a major powerful thing for you to be able to reach out and say, in the moment, maybe you got a text and you're hot and you text a friend who you made through this. I think that's huge. Or you reference one of the videos here. So our focus here is to build a community, build content that matters, that is actionable and beneficial to people, and then let this grow into all directions, and always with the idea of actionable content for people.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, I agree with everything you said. Obviously, there's kind of plans on how we grow and kind of what topics we can discuss, and whether people may need some kind of like more kind of one-to-one or kind of Randall and me, so 2-to-1 kind of assistance.
Right.
We can kind of touch on that later, because some people may not feel comfortable in writing questions down on a YouTube live, because your name may come up.
Oh, right.
Or you may kind of like put in details that you're worried that people watching may kind of find, oh, hey, that's Jack down the street.
We're thinking private group, a firewall group. Yes, that I agree with that. So we're building that apparatus and seeing how that might look, and people jump in and again, that's a great point. We're not on YouTube broadcasting the world. We're in a private, safe environment where we're airing things out and helping each other.
Yeah, kind of like more kind of customized assistance, kind of going forward. Randall and I will give you more details on that, I guess, in the matter of weeks, I guess.
Yeah, so my friend who just sent us this, that's my answer, is we are building that now. Yeah. We're building this now. Okay, good. Yeah, so hold on, I think I got a question here. Oh, here. I am filing out documents for my lawyer as we speak. Would love to have connections. This is a tough time. All right, so Jay, 25, you can hear me, I assume. Reach out to these other folks on the page that you're seeing right now, and also on the recorded videos that we have. There's several that have been great going back and forth. There's strength in numbers here, right? And really think of, I just want to nail this down as we wrap up. Think of intention, because I think some of you guys are watching and you're hearing me, but you're not listening, or whatever the term is. It's getting in and it soothes you, but then it disappears. If you take one thing away, just set the intention. What I do is going to lead me to a healthy path. Is this leading me to a healthy path? And even if you eat a box of Cheerios, it's fine. because the mind and the subconscious will start to lead you there. You're overloaded, you're upset, you're in the storm. I get it. But this is a way between setting an intention, making a community with other folks and reaching out and being vulnerable. I mean, I feel less alone now because we're doing all this, but the divorce rate's what, 55%, yet we still feel alone because we don't want to talk about it as men or what have you, but we're trying to combat that and build something that guides us out of that framework. And we grow through, we don't just go through.
I just second everything you said. And the only one thing I would add to that is when you talk about setting the intention, you know, if the intention is in the mind, it can easily drop out, right? So it may be a good idea to kind of write it down and just put it on a Post-it and just put it on your fridge, or, you know, your front door, you know, the inside of your front door, or wherever, you know, in your dresser, somewhere that you can see it. So, you know, you can just kind of remind yourself, or it reminds you.
Exactly. And some folks are saying they just like to watch and check out what we're doing. And that's great because we're all part of a community. We don't have to be outspoken and taking it to another level and that kind of thing. So I think the takeaways now are just set that intention of specifically with the anger. Anger's like a dirty web. Once you get into, we know that conceptually, we can talk about how it leads to this and how it leads to that, blah, blah. But the real question is not what it is and that it's not good for you. It's how to move beyond it. And I think we've covered that with the mind framing and the intention setting. So our intention, speaking of intention, is all right, there's some confusion. How can I join the meeting? They are in the meeting. This is the meeting, guys, on YouTube. What we're talking about is, I think what you're referencing is a private platform where people it's firewalled and private. We're not open to the world, and that will be coming. So I've gotten a couple emails. How can I jump into this private structure? And we're building that now.
Yeah, yes, because some of them may be joining in late and they may see me here and they may be thinking, who's this guy? How did he get in the meeting? So me and Randall.
Oh, I got it. Yeah.
Right. So me and Randall are we're working in conjunction now. We're working together. Yeah. I'm kind of supporting him. And in regards to the meetings that Randall's talking about, me and Randall are in discussions, and we're going to offer these kind of more private settings, more private group rooms, or even like one-to-one care, whatever it is. And over the next few weeks, maybe, you know, give it a month or two, we're going to come up with some more information on that.
That's right. So positive vibes to everybody. And we'll come out, we're designing a program and a structure to help folks. And we'll have an email soon that you can ask some questions. And we'll be doing these YouTubes monthly, probably the same night, but stay tuned, you know, Thursdays at 7. And to get the word out there. We're going to guide each other to strength and health.
Yeah, if you have anyone else that's going through it, let them know, you know. All right. It was great chatting to you guys.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much, my friend.
Randall, speak soon.
Take care, everybody.